Welcome. Have you ever looked at a company's profit and just thought, wow, they are crushing it? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain a little bit. We're going to see how that one big, impressive number can actually hide some pretty serious problems. And, more importantly, how you can find the real story that's hidden deep inside the data. Let's get right into it. So, let's start with this dairy operation. Now, on the surface, everything looks fantastic. I mean, they've sold over $500,000 worth of products, and after all their costs are paid, they're left with a really solid operating income of $70,000. It seems like a healthy, successful business, right? But here's the million-dollar question. Does that one number, that 70 grand, really tell us the whole story? Is it possible that there are parts of this business that are actually losing money, just hidden by the success of other parts? It's time to dig a little deeper. To really get to the bottom of this, we need something I like to call the manager's magnifying glass. It's a powerful technique called segment analysis, and it lets us peer inside that total profit number to see how each individual piece of the business is actually doing. And this right here is what that magnifying glass looks like when you use it. It's the segment margin income statement. So instead of just lumping all the costs together into one big pile, this statement carefully, meticulously separates them. It helps us see the real performance of, say, a specific product line, or a sales territory, or even a single customer. Now, to really use this tool, we've got to understand a key concept first, the contribution margin. Just think of it like this. For every single product you sell, some of your costs go up with each sale, right? Like materials. Well, the money you have left over after paying for those variable costs, that's your contribution margin. It's what's left on the table to help cover your big fixed costs, like rent and salaries. But this is where it gets really powerful, the segment margin. This takes it all a step further. We take that contribution margin and then we subtract the fixed costs that are directly traceable to that specific part of the business. What you have left is the segment margin. And this is so crucial. It is the single best measure of whether a part of your business is truly profitable in the long run. Okay, so that's the theory. Now let's have some fun and see this thing in action. We're going to apply this new lens to a few case studies and uncover what's really driving profit and, what's secretly draining it away. All right, let's head back to our dairy, the one with that seemingly healthy $70,000 profit. It's time to bust out that magnifying glass. So the company sells three main things: milk, cream, and cottage cheese. The real question is, are all three of them actually pulling their own weight? Okay, now this is where the story gets really juicy. Over on the right, you still see that total operating income, that $70,000. But now, look at the breakdown on the left. We've separated everything out by product line, and all of a sudden, that rosy picture starts to look a whole lot different. And this just perfectly illustrates the power of segment analysis. I mean, look at this. The milk division is an absolute superstar, generating a profit of $116,000 all by itself. But then you look at cream and cottage cheese, they're actually operating at a loss. One's losing 16 grand, the other's losing 6. They aren't just underperforming, they're actively draining away the profits that milk is working so hard to create. And this kind of analysis doesn't just work for products. It works for pretty much any segment of a business you can think of. Let's take another example. Imagine a research firm. They've got offices in 4 different cities. Now, the company as a whole is profitable, but is every single office contributing? Here we go. Here's the area office profitability analysis. We can clearly see the sales, the variable costs, contribution margin, and finally, that all-important area office margin for each location. 3 of the offices, Riyadh, Mumbai, and especially Osaka, they're doing great. But what's going on with that first column, Cartagena? The Cartagena office, well, it's in trouble. After you account for all of its own traceable fixed costs, it's actually losing $6,000. Now, without this kind of deep dive analysis, that loss would be completely invisible, just hidden by the success of the other offices. But now management knows exactly where they need to focus their attention. So, the answer seems pretty simple, doesn't it? If a product or an office is losing money, you just get rid of it. But what if it's a customer? This is where things get really, really interesting, and the answer isn't always what you'd think. So check this out. This analysis breaks down profitability by individual customer. And at first glance, we see 2 big problems. The operating income from serving Gonzalez is negative $200, and for Kawanishi, it's a whopping negative $4,200. So the obvious move here is to just stop doing business with them. right?
Well, for Kawanishi, the decision is pretty straightforward. That customer isn't even covering their own variable costs. You can see it in their negative customer margin of $200. So yeah, dropping them makes financial sense. But with Gonzalez, it's just not that simple. So why not?
The whole answer lies right here in this quote. If you look back at that analysis for Gonzalez, their customer margin is actually a positive $1,800. So what that means is, after you pay for all the direct costs of serving them, they are still contributing $1,800 towards the company's overall fixed costs. If you drop them, that $1,800 contribution just vanishes, and those big fixed costs, they now have to be covered by your other customers. You see, sometimes a technically unprofitable customer is actually better than no customer at all. So, we've seen how this segment analysis can reveal some incredible hidden truths about products, offices, and even customers. But look, the goal here isn't just about finding problems. It's about using that information to make much smarter strategic decisions. Here's a super simple 4-step framework you can use. First, analyze the profitability of each of your segments. Second, find any of those segments that have negative margins. Third, and this is the key step we just learned from our customer example, you have to assess their actual contribution to covering those unavoidable fixed costs. And only then can you make a truly informed decision to either keep, fix, or maybe drop that segment. Okay, a really quick but critical warning. This incredibly powerful tool is only as good as the data you feed it. I mean, if your cost measurements are off, or if you're allocating costs to the wrong places, your entire analysis is going to be flawed. You know that old saying, garbage in, garbage out? Getting the numbers right is the absolute foundation of every single good decision. So, the next time you see a single, simple profit number, I want you to remember what might be hiding just beneath the surface. The real story isn't just about the grand total, it's about the performance of all the individual parts that make it up. And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. What hidden truths are waiting to be discovered in your numbers?